Hey, everybody. Welcome. Glad you're here tonight. We'll have yet another great late night conversation. Let's go.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. I've been away for a little bit. Had a great trip to DC with my friend Noah. Did some great activity, and now we are back, and it is November. Welcome, everybody. So glad that you're here. Just another great late night conversation while I sit here in my lovely Brooklyn apartment. If you got a question for the second half of the show, you can send me a Rumble rant. You can cash at me at CalebMoppin22, but the best way to send your questions is buy me a coffee. And as I have said, you don't have to send it while I'm live. Richard sent a few buy me a coffees while I was away, and I will answer them in the second half of the show. So if you're watching this afterwards, you want to send a question for me to answer the next time I'm on, by all means do it. Buy me a coffee. The show's format is the normal format. First, the opening remarks, followed by the roll call. Then I answer your questions for the second half of the show. So if you got something for the second half of the show, the best way to do it is to send it via Buy Me a Coffee. But you can also CalebMoppin22 on the Cash App. You can also Rumble Rant Me. All of them work. Now, there's, quite a bit that we're going to get into tonight. Quite a bit to update you all on. I'd usually start out the live with announcements. The biggest announcement of the night is that in New Jersey, January 11th, the Center for Political Innovation is having an event. We're having a reception to start out the new year. It's going to be in New Jersey at a very lovely hotel, undisclosed location, available only to those who register. So register. Go to the website and register to attend the event. It's going to be great. It'll be a full dinner buffet for everyone who attends, music, presentations. We're going to honor 3 important local New Jersey activists and honor them. And it's going to be a really, really great event. Everyone who goes will get a copy of the book that we published for the CPI convention, right? The Great Unity Convention book. You'll get your own copy. And we're going to kick off CPI activities in the new year on January 11th in New Jersey. It's near the Newark Airport. It's at a hotel near the Newark Airport. So just register to attend. We would love to have you join us at this great event. It's going to be the kickoff event to launch the year of 2026 with the Center for Political Innovation. So be there. It's going to be awesome. Another big announcement is that I now have a new website, right? I have my new website. Go and visit my website, CalebMoppinBooks.net. Just kicked off. Shout out to the person who designed it. They did a great job. CalebMoppinBooks.net is my new website. We're doing book sales have gone through the roof in the last year. People are buying my books and just scooping them up. So now we have CalebMoppinBooks.net as the new website where I sell my books. So if you are interested in what I do, check out CalebMoppinBooks.net. Really, really awesome. Great archive there of all my different stuff, audiobooks and, bio and all that. So, in addition to the Center for Political Innovation, which is our organization, cpiusa.org, we now have my website. So, yeah, those are the announcements. But, I'm going to talk about where I was this weekend. I'm going to talk about all kinds of different stuff on the live tonight. So, yeah, glad you're all here. Had a big day, was going into the city and doing some filming. And I did a radio interview with WBAI, and I did Jamarl Thomas's show this morning. I had a pretty full day, but that's good because it means I'm getting a lot done. And that feels good. That is very satisfying. I'm a little bit tired because it's been a full day of work, and I was away for most of the weekend, but that's good. That's good because I'm accomplishing a lot, right? We put out into the universe so we can receive, right? If you have got something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, send a Rumble rant, Caleb Maupin 22, or cash at me, Caleb Maupin 22, or buy me a coffee is the best way to send questions for the second half of the show. I'll give my opening remarks, and after that, I will answer your questions for the remainder of the night. So that's my little 5-minute introduction about everything that's going on, just catching up everyone on everything. Now we're going to jump into world events. So we're just going to catch up on a few things here that just need to be caught up on. Item number one that has been my top concern over the past week is the threat and danger of war against Venezuela. I have been quite concerned about the possibility that the United States could go to war with the government of the United Socialist Party, Nicolas Maduro, the successor of Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. At the moment, it appears that things are de-escalating, which I think is a very, very good sign. So what happened was on Friday, Miami Herald, notoriously anti-Venezuela, anti-Cuba newspaper in Marco Rubio's home state of Florida, home city of Miami, they published a story that the USA was on the brink of attacking Venezuela. And when they published this story, Donald Trump was asked to comment on it while he was traveling in Asia on Air Force One. They asked Donald Trump, and he said, "No, we're not. Nope, that's not true." Very interesting. Shortly afterwards, Marco Rubio got on Twitter, and he tweeted the Miami Herald story and said it was fake news. Right? This is Marco Rubio. He said it was fake news. Very, very interesting. And the latest is Donald Trump has a couple times said, no, we won't be attacking Venezuela. We won't be invading Venezuela. But he's saying Maduro's days are numbered. He's threatening Maduro. So this is all a very, very good sign. And on Friday, Tulsi Gabbard, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, gave a speech in Bahrain, which was very important, and I might talk about that a little later on the stream. We might show that speech and just kind of react to it. It was interesting because as much as the Trump administration has strayed from a lot of the promises that were made, it seems that Tulsi Gabbard is sticking to some key points related to non-interventionism and stuff. And that's very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. But as of now, the USA seems to be de-escalating against Venezuela. Now, let's hope that that's the case. Now, I have got to point out what I have said from the beginning about this, but the facts are getting really, really blatant at this point. The idea that Venezuela is somehow a drug threat to the United States is one of the biggest pieces of malarkey, the biggest lies we've ever seen, right? The Drug Enforcement Agency of the United States says that Venezuela is inconsequential in the drug trade. And in fact, this drug they're blaming them for, fentanyl, it comes from Mexico, according to the DEA. That's where it's manufactured. They're making the fentanyl in Mexico, not in Venezuela. On top of that, so they have now killed over 60 people in the Caribbean. The United States military has sunk, ships, killed, I believe it's up to 64 people have been killed. Now, as of now, the U.S. government will not name any of those people. And it says they were drug dealers. Well, first of all, we don't have the death penalty in America for drug dealing. In America, you can get the death penalty for treason against the United States, right? If you're a U.S. citizen and you take up arms on the side of a foreign government, they can kill you for that. They can give you the death penalty for murder, premeditated murder, terrorism, but they generally don't give you the death penalty for drug dealing. Second of all, even if they did give you the death penalty for drug dealing, there's this thing called due process, where what they do, they don't just kill you. You go before a judge, you have a legal proceeding, you get sentenced to death, etc. So the idea that the U.S. government can just say, these people on boats, they're drug dealers, and kill them is completely illegal under international law. It's just like the drone strike program, where President Bush, President Obama said, oh, they're a terrorist, kill them. Not legal in any conceivable way, not a single pretense of legality. You cannot do that under international law. Just say somebody's a terrorist and kill them. Can't do it. The U.S. government does it with its drone strike program, and now Trump has been doing that. Marco Rubio has been doing that off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean. But here's the thing. If these people were really drug dealers, I don't think they'd be sinking the ships. They would be seizing those ships as evidence to try and make the case that Venezuela is actually a drug dealing country, which they're not. And even after these 64 people are dead, the U.S. government will not name who they were after they're dead. But this is the icing on the cake. This is the absolute icing on the cake. Rand Paul pointed this out. One of these ships, they sunk it. There were 2 survivors. 2 people lived. And so what did the U.S. government do with the 2 survivors? Sent them back to Venezuela. Didn't charge them with drug trafficking. Didn't, send them to the United States to jail to stand trial for drugs. Sent them back to Venezuela and still will not release their names. So it could not be more obvious that Venezuela is not the drug dealing country. I mean, if they're killing people and sinking the ships, which should be evidence, they won't release any of their names. There's 2 survivors, and they will not give their names. The idea that Venezuela is quote, run by a drug cartel. That's the argument now that's being made. Venezuela is run by a drug cartel. If that was the case, and these were drug dealers that were, being killed, they wouldn't be doing it this way. I mean, it's getting really obvious that they just lie through their teeth, and that this is a provocation. This is the United States bullying Venezuela and, engaging in aggression against Venezuela in the hopes that this will provoke some kind of confrontation. It's pretty wild. Now, the Colombian government, they have actually supplied the name of one individual they say was killed. And they say, is a fisherman, not a drug dealer. He was just a fisherman, happened to be going about his day being a fisherman. And the U.S. military decided to sink his ship and kill him. Now, the U.S. government will not confirm the name, but they have accused Colombia of being in cahoots with Venezuela as part of the drug trade. Now, Colombia does have a very serious drug problem, and the U.S. Army and military has military bases in Colombia. But yeah, the idea that Venezuela is part of the drug trade is absolutely absurd. It's not happening. But I'm hopeful that the USA is de-escalating. I'm really, really hoping that this is the case. I've said from the beginning of the crisis in Venezuela, there's 3 possible outcomes. The first of which is that the USA will de-escalate. Just like in Trump's first term, there was similar kind of stuff happening against Venezuela in Trump's first term. And then Trump got bored. And that's what happened. And John Bolton was serving in the Trump administration at the time, and he was furious about it. He was angry that they didn't go ahead and attack Venezuela. And he says, I couldn't believe it. Trump just said he was bored of Venezuela, and they moved on. And they got caught. They had the food truck over the Colombian border, and they tried to bring food into Venezuela, and then they lit their own food truck on fire. Oopsie. And they got caught lighting their own food truck on fire. They were going to blame that on Venezuela, say that but they lit their own food truck on fire, and that was really embarrassing. And so then they just kind of called off the whole Venezuela intervention, and they just moved on. And Trump said he was bored. Let's hope that that's what happens. That's the first possibility. And I think it's looking like we might be moving towards that. We shall see. Second possibility would be airstrikes, which would be completely unjustified, completely illegal under international law, an absolute disaster. And I really hope that doesn't happen. The third option would be a full-on invasion of Venezuela. And that would be an epic disaster for the world, for the hemisphere. But it would also be a disaster for Donald J. Trump, because Trump ran on a platform of not having more and more refugees. Well, if you take a country in Latin America that's pretty stable and you blow it to bits, you're going to have more refugees. Donald Trump ran on a platform of stopping drug cartels. Well, if you take a country in Central America and you blow it to bits and you overthrow the stable government, you're going to have more drug cartels. And that all the things that conservatives and Trump supporters want to be fixed were things that would be made worse by the drug cartels. Right now, Trump's approval ratings are very, very, very low. Trump is not very popular right now. And there is a layer of people who still support him, very, very solid supporters. And those folks are pissed. They're mad. I don't know if you saw, but J.D. Vance was speaking to a group of Trump supporters, and they just raked him over the coals for being beholden to Israel. And J.D. Vance was on the defensive, trying to assure them that Trump was not controlled by Israel. I mean, it was never seen anything like it. The Trump administration is on the defensive because a lot of their supporters are Nick Fuentes fans or Tucker Carlson fans. They can see the Israel lobby is running the U.S. Middle Eastern policy. And the Trump administration, to their own supporters, is desperately trying to prove they're not controlled by Israel. And their own supporters don't want regime change wars. And they're the people that still support Trump. And outside of the Trump base, Trump is quite unpopular right now because the economy is not doing too well. So my hope is that Donald Trump will look at those poll numbers and say, geez, the worst thing I could possibly do right now is start a new war and create all kinds of new refugees and drug gangs and all of this. And they'll de-escalate with Venezuela. And I'm reminded of the situation in Yemen, right? Where you'll remember Biden bombed Yemen to support Israel. And then when Trump got in, he also bombed Yemen to support Israel. The Houthis are blocking Israeli ships, trying to enforce a naval blockade of Israel to support the Palestinians. And you remember that Trump bombed Yemen. And then he was moving the U.S. battleships and the U.S. aircraft carriers into the Red Sea. And then there were some unexplained deaths of U.S. military personnel. They wouldn't say the Houthis had killed them, but there were like 5 sailors who died under undisclosed circumstances in the Red Sea. And at that point, J.D. Vance, the vice president, went on the defensive. No, this is not another Vietnam. It's nothing like Vietnam. All these people on the internet are saying it's a new Vietnam. It's not a new Vietnam. How dare they say this? And Trump said, oh, yeah, well, the Houthis called us and they said they'll never attack American ships. And so we're moving, we reached an agreement with the Houthis. It's over. And they asked Trump, well, what if they attack Israeli ships? He said, I'm fine with that. And what it really was Trump, it was a question of, if you defend Israel in the Red Sea and you continue to fight the Houthis, there's going to be dead American soldiers, dead American sailors. And Trump didn't want that on his record. And so Trump, they just de-escalated. And now the Houthis continue to attack Israel. They don't attack American ships, but the USA just lets them attack Israel. And I'm hoping that Trump will reach a similar conclusion when it comes to Venezuela. He'll realize, I can beat my chest and I can sink some ships. But if I really go to war with Venezuela, I'm going to be unpopular. I'm going to be not well loved, and I'm not going to do it. And I hope that he listens to Tulsi Gabbard, and I hope that he just de-escalates against Venezuela. That is my hope. Now, I wanted to talk about another topic that's been all over the news, and we did a story on here about it. I mean, you saw me interviewing people in front of the Salvation Army, but when it comes to the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, used to be called food stamps because back in the day they gave you stamps. Now it's called SNAP because you have a card usually. The SNAP program, Trump has been ordered to turn it back on by the courts, even though the federal government is shut down. This is the longest federal government shutdown we've ever had. The U.S. federal government is shut down. Military personnel are not getting paid. And as a result, food assistance to low-income families has been turned off. Now, the courts have ordered Trump to pay the food assistance. They've ordered Trump to pay it. under the, with emergency funds. We'll see what happens. Now, as of now, a lot of people don't have their food stamps. Supposed to be, the Trump administration has been ordered to pay it. They don't have the money. I don't know what's going to happen. It's weird. The government is ordering him to find emergency funds and do it. That's what the courts have ordered him to do. We shall see what happens. Now, I am seeing a lot of bad economics all over social media about the food stamp situation. For example, it's been widely pointed out, this is true, that 42 million people are beneficiaries of food stamps. 42 million people receive them. Now, all over social media, it says, I've seen many people tweet out, all those people should just get jobs. They should all just get jobs. Well, a large percentage of those folks are children. And on top of that, among the adults who receive food stamps, 70% have jobs. So you're saying they should just get jobs? Well, 70% of the people who get it already have jobs. So there's a problem, right? Why is it that if you have a job in the United States, your wages can be so low that you still have to get food assistance from the government? They're not paying you enough to eat. That's insane. It's a problem. And that this has actually been pointed out. Walmart and other employers, when you sign up to work there, they actually give you a guide to applying for food stamps because they are happy to pay low wages. And the only way they can get away with paying you those low wages is that you'll get food stamps. That's ridiculous. But the people who say, all these people on food stamps, they need to just get jobs. 70% of the adults getting food stamps have jobs. That's ridiculous. That's the first thing. Second thing I've seen floating around, this is a common one. I've seen this meme going around, is that the reason the price of food is so expensive, this is why, is because 42 million people get it for free. Well, though they have to raise the price for the rest of us because these other people get it for free. Well, that's not how it works either. Folks, if you watch this channel, you will know about something that should be common knowledge around America, but is not, which is the cheese cave in Missouri. All right. It's something that we talk about a lot. In Springfield, Missouri, there is a cave. And in that cave, there are billions of dollars worth of cheese. The U.S. government buys millions of dollars worth of cheese every year and buries it in a cave. Why? To keep the price of dairy high. Overproduction. And the U.S. government subsidizes agriculture and food production astronomically because we produce so much food. And American agribusiness produces so much food that the price of it would go down naturally, and the farming sector would collapse. They wouldn't make enough money. There's overproduction of food in the United States. And we've gone around the world to countries like Mexico and countries like Haiti, countries that could very easily produce their own food. And we've put their farming sector out of business, and now they import food from America. And that the classic economic, critique of capitalism is pointing out that the wages paid out in the process of production are never enough to buy back what is produced. And there's always more product, in this case, food, created than there are wages paid out in the process of creating it. And this is why we have the boom-bust cycle. This is the problem of glut, the problem of overproduction, value crisis. The U.S. government spends billions of dollars just trying to keep the price high enough that farms don't go under. So the idea that, yes, food prices right now are very high. It's very annoying. But that's heavily related to the U.S. government subsidizing food, buying food just to destroy it, buying milk, buying dairy just to destroy it in order to keep the price high. That's what the U.S. Department of Agriculture is constantly doing. And the idea that low-income people are getting food subsidies, that is not the reason that the price of food is high. That is an absurd claim. But I see this all over social media. Oh, if it wasn't for all these poor people that are getting food stamps, why the food would be so much cheaper. That's not true. That is not true. That is just not accurate, right? It's just not true. The U.S. government, the U.S. Department of Agriculture spends billions of dollars keeping the prices high. And if the price of food was natural, it wasn't subsidized as it was, it would be so cheap that all the farms would go out of business. So They have no idea what they're talking about. And this is bad economics. If there's one critique I have of right-wingers, right, and I spend a lot of time criticizing the left because I come out of the left, and I spent a long time on the left, and I'm very disappointed by the left. But, we'll be fair. If there's one thing I can criticize harshly about conservatives is that they have swallowed this pill called neoliberal economics, free market economics. They really do believe that the market is just magical and the market just solves all problems. No, it doesn't. And, a lot of the government intervention in the market is not done to benefit people, right? A lot of the government intervention is done for the benefit of the market itself. For example, the Federal Reserve Bank. Why was the Federal Reserve Bank created? Was it created to help the working class? Of course not. It was created by J.P. Morgan, right? And he gathered all of his fellow banker friends on Jekyll Island, and they said, Wall Street collapses every 2 years. We should really have a central bank that props it up so JP Morgan doesn't just have to loan everybody a bunch of money to get the economy going again every time it happens. So they invented the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation, and it's facilitated by the US government, and it pumps money in and out of the economy to prevent the economy from crashing. It used to be every couple of years we had what was called a panic on the stock market, and the economy crashed. And the Federal Reserve Bank is a mechanism for trying to stabilize a naturally unstable system. There's many examples of this. Antitrust legislation, there's all kinds of ways that the market just naturally fails. And since the rise of capitalism, really since 1825, every couple of years, the capitalist economy breaks down due to overproduction, due to the fact that the market becomes glutted with products that cannot be sold. Consumer spending power doesn't keep up with industrial output. And as a result, people are homeless because there are too many houses, and people are hungry because there's too much food. And the economy comes to a grinding halt and slows down. And there's hunger and unemployment and all kinds of stuff. And then after a little while, it gets going again. And that's the natural boom bust cycle of the market. It's caused by glut, G-L-U-T, glut. Overproduction, value crisis. That is the built-in economic problem of capitalism. And technological advancement makes it worse. It exacerbates the problem. And this is, from the beginning of the capitalist mode of production, this has been a problem. But it's really only since like the 1970s, there has been widely spread this notion that that's not true, that monopolies only exist because of the government, right? I don't know how anyone can believe this, but that's what these people believe. There would never be a monopoly if it wasn't for the government. Well, that's not true. And in fact, antitrust legislation was created because the market naturally leads to monopolies. And so the government steps in and breaks them up so the economy keeps going. When a monopoly is created and there's no competition, the market slows down and you have what's called monopolistic stagnation. And so we have, antitrust laws that were created by capitalists to serve the capitalist system to prevent monopolies. For example, it's illegal, a little known fact, if you own a movie studio and you make movies, it is illegal for you to own movie theaters. Why? Because you would only show your own movies. And then pretty soon you'd have a monopoly and the economy would slow down. And there's all kinds of laws like that. I used to work in the insurance field. If you sell insurance, right, you are not allowed to go to, somebody who owns a company and say, buy insurance from me and I'll give you some money. That's illegal, right? That's called, I forget the name of it. That's a serious crime. You can go to jail for doing that. Why? Because if people did that, they would only buy insurance from you because you're giving them some of their money back, and it makes everything that makes the market screw up. And there's all kinds of regulations that have been imposed to make capitalism a little more stable and work, right? But since the 1970s, there's been a widespread notion, Ayn Rand, this Ayn Rand stuff, Milton Friedman, this notion that the market is just magic. It just magically works. It does not. It does not. It does not. And it is a bunch of flim flam and hooey. And that they would say, oh, the only reason that, that the price of food is high is because we have food subsidies and we just got rid of that. Why the price of food would go. food would be practically free. And no, it doesn't work that way. Oh, the only reason there's unemployment is because there's a minimum wage. If we just got rid of the minimum wage, there'd be no unemployment. No. And there's these free market nonsensical claims that Milton Friedman and Friedrich von Hayek and Ludwig von Mises and people like that make, and they have absolutely nothing to do with reality. And it's this idea that if the market is just left up to its own devices, everything just magically works out, and all the problems in capitalism are just caused by government. And it's not true. I mean, it does not match reality. It's a complete illusion. And their response, if you ever point out the reality, well, it just wasn't real capitalism, right? It's like a caricature. That's what they always say about leftists and socialists and communists, is if you point to communist governments, they say, well, that's not real communism. I've always been annoyed by that. But this is what they do for capitalism. It's always just not real capitalism. It's crony capitalism. It's not real capitalism. Well, their real capitalism has never existed anywhere. And if it did, it would last about a year at most. They have this notion of the government will just stay completely out of the economy, and the economy will then just magically work perfectly because there's no government intervention, which that's not reality either. But even so, let's say, hypothetically speaking, you could get the government to just completely stay out of the economy, and somehow the economy didn't have all the natural problems of the market, like monopolistic stagnation, like, trusts, like breaking down. All these problems just didn't occur. What would happen? Well, some people would make lots of money and have more money than everybody else. And then those people would then take the money that they had and use the money to influence the government. And you would have crony capitalism once again. All capitalism is crony capitalism. Whenever you have a group of people that has way more money than everybody else, they will use that money and power and influence to rig the government to help keep them in their position of having more money than everybody else. And the notion that libertarians have is somehow in this libertarian paradise that we create, there'll be one group of people that's richer than everybody else, but they'll just be so committed to libertarianism that they'll just not rig the government in their favor. And it's completely absurd. And it's like people accuse communists and leftists of being idealists. I mean, it is pure idealism. This market flim-flam ideology, the idea that the market just naturally solves everything. No, it does not. And the problems that we have in the United States, there are a lot of problems, but the idea that they flow from the fact that the government is too involved in the economy in the United States, that's just not true. In fact, if you go to European countries, the government is way more involved. Most European countries have a way bigger welfare state than we do, provide healthcare, provide education, and that it's a $1 billion industry churning out just bad economics. The idea that, if we just privatize everything will work. It just isn't true. It's not true. And it's infuriating to me. And, I mean, it's just part of being an American is we get spoon-fed bad economics. And it's just frustrating to me to deal with. And this SNAP debate, I see it, right? We shouldn't have an irrational economy where, people are homeless because there are too many houses. People are hungry because there's too much food, where the government has to buy millions of dollars worth of cheese and bury it just to keep the price of dairy high enough that the farms don't go out of business. We shouldn't have an economic system where self-driving cars would be a bad thing, right? Self-driving cars should be a great thing, labor-saving technology. But in our highly irrational economic system, self-driving cars would lead to mass unemployment and hunger. That's not rational. We need a government of action to fight for working families, a government of action to break the power of the big monopolies and control the economy to make sure that there is growth and to invest in communities. And that's why, back to criticizing the left, I don't agree with the No Kings rallies. I'm very disappointed by a lot of what Trump is doing. Right? Donald Trump has been awful. He's violated the free speech rights of pro-Palestine students. Donald Trump, what he's doing with the ICE raids is not good, threatening war with Venezuela, bombing Iran. I'm very, very critical of Trump. Trump's first year in office has been a huge letdown. That said, the problem with Trump is not that he's a king, is that he's too strong, he's too powerful. No, the problem with Trump is that he's weak. If Trump was really strong, he would smash Wall Street, and he would tell Israel and the Israel lobby to go fuck themselves. And he would take dramatic action to improve the lives of Americans. The problem with Trump is he's not strong enough. Trump is a weak leader, but he's too strong for them. Right? That's what they don't like, is compared to previous presidents, Trump is stronger, and they don't like that. The problem with Trump is not that he's strong. The problem with Trump is not that he's, centralizing power as an executive. The problem with Trump is not that he's centralizing power and all. No, that's not the problem. If Trump were actually doing that, that would be great. He's not. He is not doing that. But they're afraid that he might do that. They want just our de facto rulers, just the people who have the money to rule over us without any question. So the No Kings rallies, not interested, completely wrong. They want Trump to be even worse. They want Trump to be Obama. They want Trump to be Biden. They want Trump to be Bush, right? They don't, the Trump is as weak as Trump has been. He's not weak enough for them, right? They want Trump to just roll over and do whatever they say. They don't like the fact that there's a whiff of authoritarianism, a whiff of illiberalism coming out of Trump. And that whiff is what would give Trump the ability to potentially make things better. They don't want that. So, the No Kings approach is just completely wrong. It is just completely wrong. Just completely wrong. So I wanted to get that out of my system as well. But yeah, folks, a lot of things are happening in the world right now. And we at the Center for Political Innovation, we just keep organizing. We just keep organizing and we just keep building. So I will say I'm surprised by the fact that it is now confirmed by Pete Hegseth, by Marco Rubio, by Trump, and by China. Apparently, the U.S. and China relationship is good. It's rebooted. Apparently, we're on good terms with China now. Who knew? We were about to have a trade war a couple weeks ago, but I guess we're now on good terms with China. Don't know how that worked. They reached an agreement, right? We're not having a trade war. Let's hope this sticks. We've got a ceasefire in the Middle East that Israel broke. Israel killed 100 people supposedly as retaliation because the body of people that was already dead was not returned fast enough. I mean, I saw people commenting on this. They said, what other country in the world would get away with killing 100 people as retaliation for the fact that somebody who's already dead, their body hasn't been turned over fast enough? I mean, it's one thing if you killed 100 people because they killed a person. But in this case, this is a person who's already dead. And Hamas hasn't turned over their body quick enough. So Israel killed 100 Palestinians. I mean, what other country in the world? I mean, it's getting crazy. I mean, the amount of power that the Israel lobby has, the amount of impunity. That's why those Trump supporters were raking Trump over the coals and raking J.D. Vance over the coals. They were raking him over the coals because it's just so obvious that Israel has unchecked power in the United States. They can just do whatever they want. And people ask questions about Epstein and blackmail and all of this. I mean, Israel, the Israel lobby, they have the power in the United States. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Now, as far as other news items, I mean, we were, shout out to Noah, if you're watching. Noah and I, we went to the Black is Back March to support the Uhuru movement. We did that on Saturday. We were also there on Friday for the press conference. It was a great rally. I'm glad we could be there to represent CPI, Center for Political Innovation. And it was a great rally, a great anti-imperialist Black is Back rally that the Uhuru movement has organized. They've been doing these rallies every year for 17 years. They started doing them really around the time that Barack Obama was running for president, became president, to make a statement that racism is not over, to make a statement that, that Obama did not represent the aspirations of the Black freedom movement. And it's partially these Black is Back rallies. That's partially why the Uhuru movement was targeted by the Biden administration. That's why they raided their homes and dragged them into federal court. Is, they called out Obama to his face in 2008 when he went to St. Petersburg, Florida to have a rally. They confronted Obama and said, "What about the black community?" They confronted Obama, and he said, "Look, if you want to run for office yourself," and they've been calling out Obama, and they've been challenging the Democrat Party in local elections. They've run people for city council. They've run people for local offices in Florida. And it looks like the Florida Democrat Party, along with Joe Biden, they sent the FBI to terrorize the Uhuru movement. And, they dragged them to federal court. And I'm really proud of all the work that our organization has done to stand with the Uhuru movement. And we'll probably show the video of our, our activities. It was a great rally, absolutely great rally. A well-loved WBAI host named Betty Davis gave a very powerful speech. A number of groups were there. The Friends of the Congo were there. The African Women's Organization. I mean, all kinds of Black anti-imperialist organizations were at this rally. It was a march from Malcolm X Park all the way to the White House. And CPI, we were invited to speak at the press conference on the day before and at the closing rally at the White House. Great opportunity to be there to stand with the Uhuru movement. So, I'm glad we could do it, and I'm proud of the work that we have done. CPI, we are doing it. We are doing it, right? And right now we have a campaign at food banks, right? Just today I was talking to Gabby in Chicago. She was handing out, we have a palm card about the food crisis and about the breakdown of capitalism and imperialism. And we're doing outreach to the people who lost their food stamps. And we're doing outreach at food banks all across the country. We're doing it. We are doing anti-imperialism. There are jokers that are screwing around on the internet, and then there's us. We're doing anti-imperialism. I mean, we had a national day of action to support Venezuela. Hold on. And we're doing it. And we're also having Khrushchevism reading groups. We're studying the Khrushchevism book and studying the mechanisms through which they destroy revolutionary organizations. And we're standing in solidarity with Uhuru, and we're standing in solidarity with Venezuela, and we're going to Russia and, meeting world leaders, and we're doing it. CPI is the real deal. We are real anti-imperialists, and that's why we've been smeared and targeted the way we are. And we also just don't care. We just keep going and organizing and fighting back. Yeah, we just keep organizing, dare to struggle, dare to win. The Center for Political Innovation is marching ahead, and great things are coming up. January 11th. Now, this event, I'm very relieved to have finally booked the hotel. So register. Go ahead and register, and I'll see you there. It's going to be a good event. People are coming in from out of town for the event. It's going to be good. So if you're in the New York, New Jersey area, or if you just want to come from out of town, it's going to be a great event. Now, for security reasons, we obviously cannot give the location out to just anybody publicly. We got to be a little bit discreet about it, but it's going to be good. Hope to see you there. We're going to be honoring a couple very important New Jersey activists, one of whom is already tweeting about it, and that's my good friend Michael Pellegatti. Now, Michael Pellegatti, he was the Occupy Wall Street tour guide featured in the New York Times. I knew him before Occupy Wall Street. I knew him as part of anti-war activism. In New York City, he was part of the United National Anti-War Coalition. He's a good guy from New Jersey, longtime activist and a friend of mine. And he became kind of famous during Occupy Wall Street for his tour guide work. And he helped CPI. He helped us with our Peace MAGA operation. He goes by Red Illuminati on the internet. And he was part of our effort to get the banner of Trump and Kim to Madison Square Garden. He came in from Jersey, and he helped us, along with Manhattan Family Church members, people like Phil and others. He helped us get that banner out there. He also attended the Saxton lectures that we did, kind of the premiere, the first in real life meetup of CPI was a gathering where I gave a series of talks called the Saxton Lectures, and he was there in the audience during the Q&A discussion, talking with people, and he's a really good guy. We're going to honor him. And then we got 2 other activists that we will be honoring at the event. I don't know if they want me to announce them yet. You'll certainly know afterwards. You'll see the video, or you'll know if you come to the event. Yeah, it's going to be a good event. There's going to be good music, good speeches, good everything. It's just going to be good all around, and you're going to really, really enjoy it. So I will see you at the event. And it will be in January, January 11th in New Jersey. It's going to be a good time for all. There's not enough real organizing. Our organization is doing anti-imperialism. It's not easy. It's not easy to do, but good, real organizing. We got a good crew of folks in CPI. I was talking to Noah. We got a good crew of folks that are very solid. We had the 7-day program that we did this summer where we got to know 22 different people from around the country, develop real bonds with them. And now we're carrying out real operations. We're carrying out real operations to, promote anti-imperialism, days of action that we did. We were in Times Square calling for peace with Russia. We, it disrupted the No Kings rallies to say hands off Venezuela. We've done quite a bit, and we want to train people to carry out real operations. We're building a real organization to carry out real operations to promote anti-imperialism. And we're doing it. And it's very, very, very exciting. And I'm really glad that we are doing it. And the Uhuru movement really appreciates what we have done. The Venezuelans really appreciate what we have done. And the Russians really appreciate what we have done. And a lot of people understand that we need to build an anti-imperialist movement in America. That is what urgently needs to be done. And that's what the Center for Political Innovation exists to do. We are building a movement, an anti-imperialist movement. Dare to struggle, dare to win. We are building the movement that this country very much needs. Now, the second half of the show, I've been on here for about 46 minutes. The second half of the show, we are going to have, I'm going to answer your questions. Richard sent a whole bunch of questions already, but before I get that, like I said, if you want to ask me a question, I will do my best to answer your question. In the second half of the show, you can send questions 3 different ways: Rumble Rants, Cash App, Caleb Moppa 22. But the best way is to buy me a coffee. But yeah, I am gonna show you. Those are how you can send the questions for the second half of the show. I am gonna show you what we did at the Uhuru rally over the weekend. You'll just see our intervention. It's kind of a short edited video I did of Noah and I at the Uhuru rally, at the press conference beforehand, etc. At the annual Black is Back March. So I'm going to show that video. And while it's showing, you can send your questions. We'll do the roll call after this video. And then from there, I will start answering questions. So let's go.
I want to welcome everyone that is here and welcome all of our speakers for the 17th annual Black People's March on the White House, titled Don't Agonize, Organize.
Thank you. On behalf of the Center for Political Innovation, I want to express our deep admiration for the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement, and the Uhuru Three, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and of course the great Chairman Omali Yeshitela, for how they fought for our right to oppose war and advocate peace in federal court, and how many forces expected that they would back down, but they did not back down. That's right. And I'm very proud that our organization was able to organize a United Nations press conference about the case. Very proud that I was able to raise the case in Russia, to speak directly with the Russian president about the case. And I also had the opportunity to attend the trial in Tampa federal court. I was there for the opening of the trial and for the sentencing. And I want to draw everyone's attention to one of the most important things that was revealed during the court process, which is that the FBI lied. That's right. The FBI lied. If they had been honest about the evidence that they had, the case never would have gone to trial to begin with. They lied. And that's very important because we know that if Kamala Harris had been elected president of the United States, they were going to continue with their lies. That Scott Ritter, the great anti-war activist, former UN weapons inspector, his home was raided under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, and he was next in line to be prosecuted. And they were aiming for all of the most prominent voices advocating peace with Russia. And the FBI lied in order to bring the indictment, and the Uhuru movement fought them in court, caught them on the stand lying, and as a result they were acquitted of the main charge of acting as foreign agents. But the jury, most likely fearing retaliation from the FBI, did convict them of a minor charge of conspiracy. That charge should be thrown out. It should be thrown out. The entire case should be thrown out. And the fight is not over. This case needs to be completely overturned. It's not a crime to advocate peace with Russia. Russia is the country that is at this point doing the most and standing in solidarity with the African continent more than any other country you could say around the world. Right now you have the Union of Sahel States, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. In Burkina Faso you have the great leader Ibrahim Traore, Captain Ibrahim Traore, the hope of the African continent, who is building and constructing and leading his people to march forward out of the domination of colonialism. To advocate peace with Russia and better relations with Russia should not be a crime. When Pam Bondi became the Attorney General of the United States, she said that the days of using the Foreign Agents Registration Act to go after advocates of peace was over, that the law would only be used in clear cases of espionage against non-citizens. But yet, now we have just recently, when Tulsi Gabbard, the new Director of National Intelligence, moved to take over the counterintelligence wing of the FBI and move them in a direction of not prosecuting American citizens, we have the FBI complaining about it and writing letters to Congress. They want to continue going after American citizens. They want to continue going after voices for peace, and they must be opposed. Right now, it's very clear that the current administration doesn't know which direction they're going. They're going one way, they're going another way. They're threatening war against Venezuela, murdering people in the Caribbean, completely unacceptable. But at the same time, they're talking about possibly building a bridge over the Bering Sea and connecting Alaska to Russia, and that they're very confused. There are different forces within the administration who don't know quite what they're doing. And I think the Center for Political Innovation, as we stand up for civil liberties, as we echo the call from the African People's Socialist Party and others to say that we should overturn the Foreign Agents Registration Act, a completely unconstitutional piece of legislation that is a threat on all who advocate peace. That law needs to be completely gotten rid of. And we need to make clear that the government of the United States is working for a lot of bankers and a lot of billionaires who are not working in the interest of the people of the United States, but rather trying to prop up a global international system. And that all who raise their voices against that system, people on the African continent, people here, whether they be in St. Petersburg, Florida, or St. Louis, Missouri, or anywhere who raise their voice against that system, people around the world need to be supported. And the future of the United States is not with this international system, this global system that is defending itself with endless war. The future of the United States is to advocate for a government of action that fights for working families. So we applaud the Uhuru movement for their heroic work, their aid, their services, their work, their anti-imperialism in the black community, and we are proud to be able to participate in the upcoming rally. Thank you very much.
Any speakers that have not checked in at the front desk, please go down.
Woke up this morning with my mind it was stay on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 They got it. Ain't no harm to keep your mind, Stay on freedom. Ain't no harm to keep your mind, Stay on freedom.
And it was something she said she wanted to tell me. And I want to say it to you. Every day you stay the way you are is a victory. It's a victory against oppression. It's a victory against capitalism. So who are you? You are your own liberators. You are determined to be self-determined. And what I want to say to you today is, you know what Dickens said was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the time of hopelessness. It was the time of hope and expectation. It was the time of pure decadence, but it was the time of pure self-determination and freedom. I'm adding my own words here. But today, we are in the best of times. They have given us the weapon to beat them with. They have taken us health care. They won't let us have affordable housing. And now they won't even let us have a decent meal with our families. So what are we going to do? We're going to organize, not agonize.
A gathering of the Uhuru movement and their allied organizations. They've been doing it, from what I understand, every year for 17 years now, since 2008 when Obama was elected, calling out the Democrats for the fake way in which they claim to support the black community. And this year, there's a really big focus on anti-colonial struggles in Africa, West Africa and the Sahel states, on the liberation of Haiti, which has just been hit by a hurricane. In addition to that, with the ongoing destruction of civil liberties in the United States.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free Africa!
Our next presenter, again, comes from the New York area. I didn't really know him before the attack on the Uhuru movement, although I did see a TikTok video that you did at one time. But before I knew it, when the call was put out, when people heard about this horrible injustice that was happening, he was there. Brother Comrade Caleb Maupin with the Center for Political Innovation. We are so glad to have him here with us. He never backed off, never relented, and he's here with us today. Uhuru!
I really want to say that it's an absolute honor to be here at this 17th annual Black is Back March, because consistency is important. And the reason that Chairman O'Malley and the African People's Socialist Party was targeted was because of their bravery and their willingness to stand alone. Because 17 years ago, they told us on American television, racism's over. Barack Hussein Obama is now the President of the United States. And it was not a popular thing to say that was a hoax and that was a lie. But Chairman O'Malley and the Uhuru movement did it. And they did it year after year after year. And they were brave enough to stand against the crowd. And everyone knows they were right. Barack Obama killed Gaddafi and destroyed the most prosperous country on the African continent. He destroyed Libya. Barack Obama ground this country into poverty, and conditions haven't changed. And it wasn't a popular thing to say that back in 2008, but Chairman O'Malley did it, and they came after him, and they've gone after him just like they've gone after so many voices for peace, so many people that are brave enough to stand up. And we take our hats off to Chairman O'Malley. Every effort was made to get the Uhuru 3 to plead in federal court, but they refused to do it. And they went to federal court and they fought for our right to advocate peace. And they challenged the FBI in court and they won. And before the entire world, they showed that the FBI lied to get that indictment. And now we know this whole Russiagate hysteria was a hoax. Russia is not our enemy. Our enemy is the big bankers and international monopolies that are grinding this country into a low-wage police state and marching us toward World War III. And there's a big section of the world that is broken free from their dominance. The BRICS world, Russia, India, China, South Africa, whole sections of the planet are rising up. And the only future that America is going to have is going to be with that new economy. We need to oppose Wall Street. We need to oppose their wars. We need to have friendship between the peoples of China and America, friendship between the peoples of Russia and America, friendship with Venezuela. The only future is peace and economic development. We need a government of action that will fight for working families. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Now, thank you to everybody who's sent questions and such. You can continue sending questions. I am going to show Tulsi Gabbard's speech, just her opening speech. I'm not going to show the Q&A that she did, but I am going to show Tulsi Gabbard's speech from Bahrain because I think that's important. So before we get to the roll call, I'm going to do that. And if you got more questions, hey, send them. We got a question from John McCarthy. We got Richard's questions he sent over the weekend. You can send questions via Buy Me a Coffee. That's the best way to send questions. You can also do Rumble rants, and you can cash at me at CalebMoppin22. Questions are always appreciated. But anyway, so this speech was given by Tulsi Gabbard in Bahrain. Now, Bahrain is an absolute monarchy that's propped up by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is Sunni, Muslim, Wahhabi, and the majority of the people in Bahrain are Shia Muslims. And they've gone out many times to protest against the Wahhabi monarchy backed by Saudi Arabia that's imposed on them. And it's where the USA has a lot of its military bases are stationed in Bahrain, the Kingdom of Bahrain, which is, a very, very small place that is close to Saudi Arabia, that Saudi Arabia basically imposes a king onto. But Tulsi Gabbard was invited there at kind of a think tank gathering, and she gave these remarks about the changes in U.S. foreign policy that she would like to see. And I think they're very, very important. So here we go.
Thank you, distinguished guests, excellencies, friends, and fellow peacemakers. It's a privilege to join all of you here this evening. Your Highness, thank you very much for your kind hospitality and welcoming us and hosting this important event. To I and SS and your team, thank you for yet again putting on a phenomenal dialogue. It's an honor to be able to address you here in the Kingdom of Bahrain at this pivotal time in global history. As we gather here, we're reminded that true security, true stability, and peace cannot be forged in isolation, but in the common collection of peacemakers working towards that common purpose. Today, I want to speak plainly for myself as a veteran and a soldier who has seen firsthand the high cost of war. As someone who serves under President Trump's leadership, I have experienced the promise of peace. His vision is about delivering real wins, not just for America, but for our collective cause of peace and prosperity, and doing so through a very principled realism rooted in shared goals, interests, and values. The old Washington way of thinking is something we hope is in the rearview mirror and something that has held us back for too long. For decades, our foreign policy has been trapped in a counterproductive and endless cycle of regime change or nation building. It was a one-size-fits-all approach of toppling regimes, trying to impose our system of governance on others, intervene in conflicts that were barely understood, and walk away with more enemies than allies. The results: trillions spent, countless lives lost, and in many cases, a creation of greater security threats. The rise of Islamist terrorist groups like ISIS. President Trump was elected by the American people to put an end to this. And from day one, he has showed a very different way to conduct foreign policy, one that is pragmatic, that is deal-driven, with a very realistic approach focused on protecting American security and prosperity while engaging with the world on terms that actually make sense.
Now, to be fair, I know a lot of people watching this are tempted to say, well, Caleb, he bombed Iran. Caleb, he's threatening Venezuela right now. Caleb, he's given Israel everything they want. This is a bunch of malarkey. Well, it's not a bunch of malarkey. I mean, as much as all of that is true, right? And I'm very disappointed by a lot of things about Trump. They also accused him of being an agent of Russia. They also sponsored the No Kings rallies to drive him out. They also tried to put him in jail to prevent him, being elected again. They also, it looks like, a Ukrainiac, a fanatical Ukraine supporter who wanted the war in Ukraine to keep going, tried to kill him to keep him from taking office. And that as much as Donald Trump, has disappointed a lot of us, they see something in Trump that they are afraid of. And they see that, and that's what they would like to stop. And now the people from his previous administration, who seem to be pushing him to be the most warlike, have all turned against him. For example, Marco Rubio is in the administration, but Mike Pompeo was one of the people who pushed him to murder Qasem Soleimani. He's out, and he's an enemy of Trump now. Who else? John Bolton is now being prosecuted by Trump, and it appears he was selling government secrets to NATO countries, was laundering classified information. So there's something going on here. I believe Tulsi Gabbard represents the best wing of the Trump administration. I think Marco Rubio represents the worst wing. There's a push and pull behind the scenes. And the fact that Tulsi Gabbard, she said there, "I'm speaking for myself," which means that there are probably people within the Trump administration who don't agree with her, right? That was a hint there, where she said, "I'm speaking for myself." But yeah, she's going to give Trump a lot of credit here, but it's credit for doing good things, not credit for doing bad things. So here we go.
During his first term, the president brokered the Abraham Accords, this historic pact between Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan that came from staying laser-like focused on shared interests.
Now, the Abraham Accords, I'm not a big fan of because it is, Arab states conferring legitimacy and recognition onto Israel. But she's about to try and promote the Abraham Accords in an interesting way. Generally, the way the Abraham Accords are promoted is like, oh, look, all these Muslims are recognizing Israel. That's great. But actually, she's going to point out to something related to the Abraham Accords that is quite interesting.
Prosperity, counterterrorism, technological innovation. These countries that had eyed each other perhaps warily at times for decades found common ground in trade routes, joint ventures, and a mutual stake in both regional and global stability.
Now, she's there saying that basically the way that we're going to end instability in the Middle East is with economic development. And that was a proposal that was widely circulated. The Soviet Union wanted that. They wanted to green the desert in the Middle East. They wanted to basically connect the government of Israel and the Palestinians and the Arab countries by creating an agricultural hub. And they wanted to green the deserts, and that's what they wanted to do. And Gaddafi did that in Libya with the Great Man-Made River, the world's largest irrigation system. And that was kind of the Soviet vision for resolving the conflict in the Middle East, was economic development. As if we could get, a corridor of economic development in the Middle East, and get all these countries to not just have oil, but to have, more and more of a stable economy. We could connect these countries with trade. Then there wouldn't be conflict. The British plan for the Middle East has been endless conflict, right? And you read Israel, the Oded Yanan plan, to get Sunnis and Shias killing each other, to play the different peoples of the region against each other. The whole map of the Middle East was drawn up by the British Empire. Look up the Sykes-Picot Agreement. It was a secret treaty signed during World War I that basically, after World War I, the British Empire divided up the Middle East. And the reason there's Saudi Arabia and Oman and Yemen and Qatar, all of that, it was the British that drew that up. There used to be one Arab people. They were conquered by the Ottoman Empire, but there was one Arab nation, and the British divided it up and created all kinds of sultanates and kingdoms and emirates, and the British Mandate of Palestine, the Balfour Declaration. The idea was to keep the people divided. And the Soviet Union, their vision, which a lot of the Baathist Arab socialist countries, Syria and Iraq, and a lot of the Baathists and Arab socialists, their idea was, with great irrigation projects, they could bring water and agriculture to the desert, and they could connect the countries economically, and as a result, they wouldn't be fighting with each other, and that was the road to peace. And that the election of Menachem Begin, the far right administration of Israel, right, the Likud party, their election in 1978 was a very negative turning point. That they were a hawkish, viciously anti-Arab, viciously anti-Soviet, anti-communist administration. And the Likud party pivoted Israel away from a vision of shared economic development. And as much as my initial reaction to the Abraham Accords is that they grant legitimacy to Israel, it seems like Tulsi Gabbard is presenting the Abraham Accords as part of building up for a vision of an economically prosperous Middle East. So, I mean, she's making a case for the Abraham Accords that's coming from a good place. I'm not going to endorse the Abraham Accords because I don't want to confer legitimacy upon the forces that are committing crimes against the Palestinians, but she's arguing for them in a way that's based on economic win-win cooperation, kind of almost invoking the spirit of China's Belt and Road. And I think that's very important.
We've heard President Trump and Vice President Vance speak just last week about their hope that the Abraham Accords will continue to grow and expand to allow for a true lasting regional stability and peace. This is what President Trump's America First policy looks like in action, building peace through diplomacy with an understanding that there cannot be prosperity without peace.
Right? There cannot be prosperity without peace, and the road to peace is economic development and prosperity. Very interesting.
President Trump de-escalated tensions on the Korean Peninsula through direct talks during his first term in office. He opened lines of communication with North Korea that had been frozen for generations. He did what no other president had been willing to do, engage directly to speak about peace.
Yes, and that was amazing. The only president in U.S. history to have visited North Korea, right, as a sitting president. Utterly amazing. And from the beginning, North Korea was saying Trump was the better of options. And I know this, right? I was out on my way out of the Workers' World Party when Trump was first running for president, but they got the memo basically from North Korea. Trump is willing to negotiate with us. And North Korea, they very much, they said, look, we think Trump is willing to negotiate with us. We like Trump. And they said that in the last election as well, right? That when it comes to the hope for peace on the Korean Peninsula, Donald Trump is the guy who offers us the ability to possibly see it. And I mean, North Korea was very adamant, very clear. Trump is somebody who can possibly negotiate with us. They made that clear. And if you're actually listening to North Korea, that was their position.
He restored American leadership abroad. He brokered economic normalization between Serbia and Kosovo, promoting stability and peace in the Balkans regions. And now, just 9 months into his second term, President Trump's America First agenda is supercharging these efforts and securing peace on a scale that we haven't seen in decades. He secured ceasefires between India and Pakistan, Israel and Iran, a peace agreement between Rwanda and the DRC, a peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Cambodia and Thailand, and averted conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. As was mentioned previously and is very much in focus for so many of us, he negotiated the release of all living hostages from Hamas. While fragile, an historic ceasefire and peace plan is moving forward, it is doing so with integral support from many of our partners here in this room. So what ties all of this together? A simple and revolutionary idea. Pursue joint interests, find those win-win solutions where they align, and recognize that yes, we will have differences and we will work through them. President Trump understands that not everyone shares our exact values or our system of governance, and that's okay. What's most important is finding where our shared common ground exists and building those partnerships and progressing on those common grounds.
I mean, this should be common sense. but it's not. And nobody in the Democrat Party is talking this way. And a good chunk of the Republican Party is not talking this way. A big chunk of the Trump administration is not talking this way. Tulsi Gabbard is talking this way. This is really, really important. She's talking the language of win-win cooperation, peace through development. This is really, really important.
Things like energy independence that stabilizes global markets. Things like countering terrorism, something that continues to grow in different parts of the world. Strengthening trade partnerships to boost economic growth and innovation. These are the components, the glue of enduring partnerships and friendships. So America First is not about isolating ourselves. As President Trump has shown, it's about engaging in direct diplomacy, being willing to have conversations that others are not willing to have, and finding that path forward where our mutual sovereign interests are aligned. And that's really why we're all gathered here today in Manama. We can commit to this path ourselves and put it into action. With Bahrain's own leadership, year after year, hosting these critical dialogues shows us the way forward, convening nations from around the globe, amplifying shared stakes, and strengthening partnerships and lines of communications that allow us to resolve our differences and deliver results for our respective people. Under President Trump, the United States is your partner in executing this vision as a deal maker who is committed to peace. And together we look forward to continuing this path towards peace, to ending wars that have defined too many generations, unlock prosperity for millions, and help support the future of a Middle East where security is a dividend of cooperation, not a cost of conflict. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the pursuit of peace.
Look, that is the best thing about the Trump administration. And the Trump administration has been awful, but it appears that there is a faction within the Trump administration, led by Tulsi Gabbard, that at least has some notion of a post unipolarity world, some notion of win-win cooperation, some notion that the people who lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and the people who lied about Russiagate, they need to be held accountable. We need to do everything we can to support Tulsi Gabbard and to support this wing of the Trump administration. And, you know, it might be difficult at times. And that doesn't mean we have to support all the bad things Trump has done as president. But within Trump's administration, there is a good faction. And we have to support it as much as we possibly can, right? It's really the only hope we've got. Look, Bernie Sanders said absolutely nothing about Venezuela until like just recently. But Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, they were out there. Bernie Sanders, when Israel was bombing Iran, he said that was okay. When the USA bombed Iran, he finally said, ooh, maybe they shouldn't, but Israel has the right to. It was completely ridiculous. Bernie Sanders and AOC are not pro-peace. Mamdani, who's going to be the next mayor of New York City, is denouncing Venezuela and building a movement of woke liberal haters that want to, you know, have war with Venezuela because they don't have transgender bathrooms or whatever. You know, I'm just telling you, the only section of the government that is at all anti-war and pro-negotiations is the Tulsi Gabbard faction. Right now, the FBI is furious because Tulsi Gabbard is trying to take control of their counterintelligence operations, which I think is a great thing. I don't know if you saw the headline. Here, I'll put the headline on. You know, this was on MSNBC. MSNBC, you know, they got the leak. Oh, they're totally against Tulsi Gabbard, right? This is the headline. FBI slams House proposal to grant Tulsi Gabbard leading role on counterintelligence. She's trying to take control of the counterintelligence wing of the FBI. The FBI doesn't want that because they know that she's not on board with their war agenda. Folks, do you know what the name of the program that the FBI used to go after the Black Panthers was called? It was called the COINTELPRO program, their counterintelligence program. And Tulsi Gabbard is here as somebody who is committed to peace, as somebody who revealed that Russiagate was a hoax, that Russia didn't meddle in our elections. She's trying to take control of the counterintelligence operations of the FBI. This is a really, really hopeful thing. And again, is she perfect? No. And is the Trump administration all where we're at? No. But there is like one sliver, one layer of people within the Trump administration that seem to have common sense when it comes to war and peace. We've got to boost and support them as much as we can. And that's what CPI has always been about. And there are some people that just want to play this red team versus blue team game, and they're missing the point. Look, this is what we did. You'll see in this video, you'll see Michael Pellegatti, who we're going to honor at our event in January. You're going to see Phil, our good friend from Brooklyn, CPI member Phil. You're going to see, people from Manhattan Family Church. When Trump came to Madison Square Garden, we set out, this was like the last couple days of the election last year, we set out to boost the peace message. And we were out in front of Madison Square Garden with this banner of Trump and Kim shaking hands. This was our intervention at Madison Square Garden.
So we're here on 34th Street, and the crowds have lined up. They're going in to see Trump speak. We've got our banner. We're handing out our palm cards, spreading the message.
Like a concert, but bigger. I see the lines of people going block after block after block after block, and it makes you wonder, is the media, the mainstream media, really telling you the truth about how unpopular Donald Trump actually is?
This administration is evil, and we need to bring America back and make America godly again, make America great again.
Hey, only peace can make America great again. Only peace can make America great again. This was a great, great moment when Trump talked to Kim Jong-un and started the process of peace on the Korean Peninsula. And we want to see peace not just with North Korea, but with Russia, with China, with many countries around the world. It is outrageous that billions of dollars is being spent on prolonging the war in Ukraine when our people can't get relief in North Carolina. People are left behind in Georgia and North Carolina. They can't get the relief they need. This is outrageous. Our government is more concerned with waging wars around the world than for caring for our own people. That we need a president who will put America first, a president who will bring peace around the world. Only peace can make America great again.
Yeah, you think Trump could be a peace president?
I think he can, as long as he surrounds himself with people who have peace in mind. My concern, I'm a voter, I'm concerned about everything. He's surrounding himself with a lot of people from big tech, and big tech has pretty much been now part of the military-industrial complex, so that's slightly concerning, but I think if Trump surrounds himself with good people, I think so.
I appreciate Trump and all his efforts.
You like the banner, huh?
I do.
Yeah, are you worried about war, the danger of war?
I am, and I know I'm confident that Trump can put an end to it.
They're marching us toward World War III, and they're taking our freedoms away. While they do it, we have got to stand up. Kamala Harris represents the most vile factions of the deep state, the regime change apparatus.
Yeah, what do you think about how Kamala Harris, I mean, it seems like she's locking up her political opponents, trying to put people in jail, trying to put Trump in jail so she can win the election?
They'll do anything to stay in power.
You're a Kennedy fan, I can see, huh?
I am, yes.
Yeah, he's bold, sticking up about the vaccines and all of that. Telling
He
the truth.
is, but I think it's important. When you have a lot of mainstream publications who refuse to report on a lot of the stories that people have, I think it only adds more validity to what Kennedy's been saying about big pharma, big ag.
This is a man of peace. This is a man that can do it. He is a man that can make things happen. Everybody say war, war, war. This man is for peace, he's for unity, he's for the black, he's for the white, he's for everybody. This is the man I like. Don't worry about what the fake media say. 100% the right man for the job.
We want peace between all different races and nationalities in the world. This is how they are. I'm here advocating peace and he's calling me a Nazi. Didn't the Nazis start a big war? Didn't the Nazis take people's freedom away? This is how they are. This is exactly how they are. You're a Nazi if you want peace. This is how sick they are. You're standing here saying you want peace and he's calling us Nazis for wanting peace. I'm standing here for peace and they call you a Nazi. This is how sick the woke left is. It's Nazism to want peace. I'm a patriot. I love my country, and loving your country means you don't want a war. I am a patriot. I love America, and I don't want World War III. Only peace can make America great again. Trump wants to negotiate. He wants to trade with countries around the world rather than bombing them. He wants to end these insane sanctions that are weakening the dollar around the world. And he wants to open up trade and friendship. Peace starts with trade and doing business.
Obama couldn't do it. Bush couldn't do it. He did it. For that reason, I'm giving my vote for him. I'm from New York City here. I'm voting for him.
About yourself, you and I go back to Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, we go back to Occupy Wall Street. I started off with the Jersey City Peace Movement. We're all about saying no to wars. And that's why I've come out to stand here with this sign, because World War III is a bad thing to get ourselves involved with. And seeing who Kamala Harris these days is surrounding herself with, the likes of Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney and these neocon warmongers that just won't leave us alone.
What do you think? What do you think?
Excellent. Excellent.
That was a great moment when he met with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, he has the respect of people around the world, unlike Kamala.
Absolutely.
No one has any respect for him.
I say America first, not Ukraine first. I say America first, not Israel first. Only peace can make America great again. Only peace can make America great again. This is the... No problem.
How are people liking it? Good?
He's a deal maker, and this should just be the beginning. I can't wait until Donald Trump shakes hands with Putin. I can't wait until Donald Trump shakes hands with Xi Jinping. I can't wait until Donald Trump shakes hands with the Iranians and with the Cubans all around the world. Only peace can make America great again. And it's time that we do business. There's a whole new economy in the world. If you look at the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, all these countries are rising up from poverty and building new railways and all that. We should trade with them. We should get some of that money for America. America shouldn't be trying to lock the world out. Our dollar is losing value because of this silly policy.
Yeah. All right, folks, names and locations, names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you, who is with us tonight, and then we'll get to answering questions. So now is the roll call time. Names and locations, names and locations, names and locations. Yes, we did get mentioned in the New Yorker. Names and locations, names and locations. John McCarthy in Chicago. Miriam Adelson won a permit. Lawrence Johnson in Chicago. Quanos. Jenny in Cincinnati. Gabby in Chicago. Penny in Minnesota. Jacob in Wisconsin. Redakis in Ottawa. Boston. Ed in Louisville. Ottawa. Chad in Spokane, Washington. Jim, I wish I LOL. Brooklyn in the house. I hope all is well with you and yours. Jane in New Zealand. Red Axis in Ottawa. The Seasoned Noob in China. The South, USA. Huey the Kingfish. Ellie from Chicago. Good to have you. Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us. Penny in Minnesota. If you want to send me one of your great compilation videos, I will show it later tonight. Send me one of your compilations. I know you've been wanting me to do that for a while. NL Jordan in Baltimore. Alex in Brazil. Alex in Brazil is with us. Names and locations. Anybody? Names and locations. He said Quanos. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Why, yes, sir, I did. Names and locations. Anybody else with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. All right. So buy me a coffee is the best way to send your questions. And Richard sent me 3 coffees over the weekend to answer. So I will answer them now. And John sent 2 so far tonight. We got Jim in Miami. And so, yeah, if you got a question, send me, buy me a coffee is the best way to send questions. We can, take questions other ways as well. Rumble rants, or you can cash at me at Caleb Maupin 22. But questions are always appreciated. They make the show entertaining. They help the show happen. So, all right. So we're going to answer Richard's questions, all three of which were along the same kind of theme. He said, first, what makes European Union immigration policy so unpopular with regard to Syrian refugees and migrants? And Turkey took more refugees from Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, but in the European Union, no becomes anti-immigrants, is to be Eurosceptic. Fico, I don't like the European migrant crisis as well, but I think it should be beyond being mostly Syrians after the U.S. supported jihadis. Well, look, the European migrant crisis, it is a result of the fact that, the United States and the NATO countries were destabilizing Middle Eastern countries. First, the USA invaded Iraq and destroyed Iraq. Then, you had a war in Afghanistan that had gone on for 20 years, making Afghanistan less and less stable. Then after the Arab Spring, the USA destabilized and overthrew the government of Libya. On top of that, the USA fomented a civil war that went on and on and on in Syria, leading to all kinds of deaths. And Europe is right there, and people were piling in. And the European Union set immigration policies, so these individual countries didn't have the ability to set the policies for themselves. So that added to the fact, right? Here in the United States, we set our own immigration policy, and there's a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment, but at least it's us making the laws, right? But if you're Italy or you're Belgium, you don't even get to pick what the immigration policy is. Once they get into the EU, they can go anywhere they want. And I think that feeling of a lack of sovereignty is one of the defining aspects of why the European Union is so hated and why there's anti-immigrant sentiments. Is there's a feeling that these EU countries don't have the right to set their own policies with regard to immigration, right? There's a lack of sovereignty. Now, the next question is, who is Viktor Orban? The man is memorialized by Hungarian Nazis, voted against the blockade on Cuba, but Putin and Xi seem to like the guy. Richard, I don't understand why you always this is a consistent theme in your questions. You're right, rank and file Russia. The new right has a lot of people who are rank and file that like Russia but hate China. Dmitriev and Medvedev decry leftism a lot. I get what you're saying. So first of all, Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban is a Hungarian nationalist. Now, Hungarian nationalists, their narrative is they blame Hungary's problems on the Soviet Union. They argue that when Hungary was part of the Soviet aligned Warsaw Pact, that it was not treated properly, etc. That's their claim. And that, there were a lot of Hungarian nationalists that were sympathetic to the Axis powers in World War II, that they launched an uprising against the Hungarian government in 1956, that all the woke people, all the anarchists and Trotskyites all supported, but the Communist Party of the United States didn't support it. The Soviet Union sent troops to put it down. Mao initially was open to supporting it, and China sent people to meet with the Hungarian anti-Soviet rebels, but China determined they were anti-communist, and then they sent military forces to put down the Hungarian uprising. And that was the first military intervention by an Asian country into Europe since the time of Genghis Khan. It was actually a moment of great national pride when China joined with the Soviet Union to put down the Hungarian revolt of 1956. And that the Hungarian uprising of 1956 was an anti-communist, fascist CIA uprising. You had Cardinal Mindszenty and all kinds of people that were involved in it. And it became a rallying point for Hungarian nationalists. And after the fall of the Soviet Union in Hungary, there was a lot of, suffering. And, the standard narrative, you see, we in America, we don't know anything. We've been all told, under communism, they were all starving. But in the 90s, these countries got freedom, and it was just so amazing. Well, don't tell anybody in Hungary that. They lived through it. That's not what happened, right? Things in Hungary went pretty badly in the 90s. Now, communists in Hungary would say that's because we went back to capitalism. However, among nationalists, the narrative is, the Soviet Union left us out to dry. When we abandoned communism, we were just, it's the communists' fault that things got bad after communism. That's the nationalist narrative. Viktor Orban is a nationalist, and he took office on that platform. So he's very anti-communist, and he, his whole rise to power is demonizing the Soviet Union. However, as a nationalist who's against the European Union, who's purely interested in Hungary, he notices that Hungary, while he doesn't like, the history of communism in Hungary, while he doesn't like the Soviet Union, he says that Hungary, it's just not in their economic interest to go all in against Russia. And that, that it just doesn't benefit Hungary economically to be part of the, the European Union, NATO anti-Russia crusade. And so he wants to trade with Russia. He doesn't agree with Russia historically. He's got a different historical understanding of Hungary and all of that, but he can make a deal with them. And that, again, there's a lot of people that have it in their heads that, well, that Russia or China or Iran or any of these countries should support the left and they should oppose the right. And I mean, right now, I mean, it couldn't be more obvious why anti-imperialist countries don't do that. I mean, Venezuela, take a look at Venezuela, for example, right? Venezuela, the left is doing nothing for them. Rand Paul is, right? I mean, the left is not anti-war, and the left are the people, who did the Hungarian revolt of 1956, the woke left, right? Even though it was the Soviet Union that crushed it. And the woke left, in Europe, are they doing anything to oppose sending weapons to Ukraine right now? No. So, if there's a nationalist who, for purely economic and nationalistic reasons, wants to do a better deal, and doesn't want to go along with hating Russia, what would be wrong with Russia and China understanding that guy, look, he's more independent, and as a result, he's not, joining the latest globalist crusade? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me. And again, ideology, you got to kind of throw that out, right? This whole left-right thing, it's all very much rooted in the Cold War time. And the USA started messing with it, right? With the rise of the Congress for Cultural Freedom and all of that. And now at this point, left and right don't even make any sense at this point, right? So Viktor Orban is right-wing ideologically. He's got an anti-communist, anti-Soviet historical narrative. But when it comes to the way things are now, he's governing in a way that's less hostile and less in favor of World War III, less in favor of sending weapons to Ukraine. And meanwhile, all the left, practically all the leftists in Europe, all the communists and anarchists and Trotskyites and socialists, they're all supporting war with Russia. So, like, what are they supposed to do? And the same with Dmitriev. I don't like the same with me, right? Look, I was on the left. No one's got better leftist credentials than I do, right? I literally videotaped an act of police brutality in 2010, got 2 young black women acquitted in juvenile court. I have been doing communist stuff. I was part of Occupy Wall Street, but the left thinks I'm a Nazi. And the left, when I have a workshop in Minneapolis, they protest outside of it, calling us fascists and white supremacists. The left basically wants me to be killed. They've put a hit out on me, claiming I'm a white nationalist. PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation, is basically trying to incite violence against the Center for Political Innovation, trying to inspire people to kill us. So it's like, I mean, why should anti-imperialist countries support the left when the left at this point wants to kill them? The left are out there fundraising for Ukraine. The left are out there saying that if you agree with Russia and China, you must be the same as Hitler and you're a Nazi. Like, why do you expect the left, to get support from anti-imperialist countries when the left doesn't support them? I mean, look, we're not doing an ideological left thing here. That's kind of why we're doing innovationism. We're breaking with this crazy left-right stuff because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And that, the left are more pro-war and pro-intervention than the right at this point. And so, what do you expect? I feel like this is pretty obvious, but it just requires breaking out of an ideological blinders. And that's the next question Richard asks. He says, Trump's been compared by the media, not just in the US, but around the world, to Putin, to Mao Zedong, to Hugo Chavez. What could Trump do to be an American version of that? And what does an American version of that look like in your view? Well, our 4-point economic plan, that pretty much spells it out, right? That would be the American version of building an anti-imperialist state, public control of banking, public ownership of our natural resources, mobilizing the country to build and hiring the unemployed to build the country up, and a mass program of construction, enacting an economic bill of rights, having a powerful government that breaks the will of Wall Street and starts investing in people and communities and overseeing economic growth of all society. Yeah, a government of action to fight for working families. If Trump were to do that, which he's not doing, and I don't expect him to do, but I would want him to do. And if Trump did that, that would make him like Putin or Xi, or Hugo Chavez. And if it were to happen in the United States, that's what it would look like: taking control of our economy, our natural resources, our banking system, investing in communities, mobilizing construction. Right? That's 21st century socialism. That's what it looks like. Now we have two more coffees that come from John. Now, John says, the way Tucker Carlson has been talking about Venezuela, I think he must be watching your streams. I hope you're right. I mean, I am friends with Tara Reid. I visited with her when I was in Russia. Tara Reid is a friend, and she knows Tucker Carlson personally. She's been on his show a couple times. She pushed Tucker Carlson to cover the Uhuru case because she met the Uhuru people at our CPI convention. She didn't know about the case either, but it was a week after they got raided. And, these relationships are important. Is Tucker watching this channel? I would hope he is. I certainly hope so. Tucker's a good guy. He's evolved on a lot of issues over the years, and now he puts out a lot of very good stuff. He's interviewed Dan Kovalik, who's a friend of ours. I mean, he seems to be open to non-interventionism. He's critical of Israel, etc. He's open to different views that are critical of the American status quo. He's kind of in that Tulsi Gabbard area. But at the same time, what he's pointing to is he's just pointing to obvious reality. Venezuela doesn't have gay marriage. Venezuela has outlawed abortion. Venezuela is socially conservative. And that the woke people hate Venezuela too, right? All the woke people, Mamdani, who's running for mayor of New York City, he hates Venezuela. And that, it's not that we celebrate necessarily that they're against gay marriage, but the left in America doesn't support any of the anti-imperialist countries. And then on top of that, demands that you immediately pile on to this, socially liberal agenda. And if you don't agree with that, you get smeared and canceled and hated. And, so anybody who thinks that Mamdani and Maduro are the same is wrong. Right? They're not the same. Mamdani's economic program is not similar to Maduro's. Maduro took control of the economy and is using the economy to build and, public ownership of natural resources. Mamdani just wants to expand the welfare state. And they're not the same. And the issues that the left demands you jump on the bandwagon of, or you get canceled, Venezuela has not jumped on the bandwagon of. And I saw that, and I guess I got frustrated. Because, Tucker Carlson was just pointing out that Venezuela is not woke, that they are socially conservative in addition to their economic, socialist policies. And I saw various people that support Venezuela saying, oh my God, Tucker's lying. Venezuela loves gay people. And I got angry and I said, well, God forbid any Trump supporter not want to blow up Venezuela. But then I realized a lot of these people don't understand. They're living in a leftist bubble, and in their mind that makes Venezuela look bad. They just don't understand. So you got to know your audience. But I think, Tucker Carlson pointing out to conservatives, they are running a con. It's like both sides are wrong, and it pisses me off because I take this seriously. On the left, they don't know what socialism is. They've decided that socialism is, a worker cooperative, or socialism is when the government gives people free stuff. And if you believe in actual socialism, they will call you a Nazi like they've done with me, and they will advocate violence against you. They'll threaten you. They're like viciously hating anyone who actually believes in actual socialism on the left, right? They hate Venezuela. They hate China. They hate North Korea. The left hates actual socialism. They've given socialism a new definition to turn it into something completely harmless. And they viciously hate and cancel and advocate violence against people who believe in actual socialism, like me. That's the left. On the right, they're against any notion of socialism, but they continue to repeat the lie that the woke left and the socialist countries are the same. They are not. They are very obviously not the same. But they hate the woke left, and they want to recruit people who hate the woke left to also hate the socialist countries. And it's very infuriating. And both sides are lying. The left is lying about what socialism is and is mobilizing people to believe in this bread tube, woke, rainbow flag socialism to hate actual socialist countries. The right is mobilizing people to hate the woke left and trying to equate them with the anti-imperialist countries. It's all a lie. And it infuriates me because I've actually been to these countries and I've actually studied this stuff. And I've spent my life understanding that, countries that have broken out of Western imperialism and taken control of their economies and built themselves up with a planned economy have had great success. And no, it's just not true that socialism just fails everywhere. Socialism, a society where the banks, factories, and industries and the centers of economic power are centrally planned and rationally organized in the interest of public good and not the profits of a wealthy few, has had great success. That's why China is the second largest economy in the world. That's why the Soviet Union became an industrial superpower. And the fake left hates this, and the right hates this, and and no one, this message is pretty hard to come by, and I find the debate to be very, very, very frustrating. Right? I find the debate and the terms of the discourse to be very frustrating because it's like you're just not allowed to say what I say. There's a lot of phony people that are just determined to make sure no one gets to say this. Kim Iverson says the attack on Nigeria is an attack on the Belt and Road, says John. That's interesting. Look, in Nigeria, it's about half Christian, half Muslim. They've been fighting each other for quite some time. One of the biggest problems in Nigeria is that in Muslim regions, the local government seems to be in bed with some of the terrorist groups, and that they seem to be, collaborating, and that, fighting against Boko Haram has been an important thing. The Christian community and the Muslim community don't get along. And in the Muslim areas, there's some persecution of Christians and vice versa. And that's how this oil-rich African country has been kept poor, largely, is by, playing the Christians and Muslims against each other. And there's been civil war, between Muslims and Christians. I mean, going back there. And Nigeria is a very, very oil-rich, wealthy country, but the people there are very impoverished. And yeah, China is making a lot of inroads into Nigeria because, Nigeria has oil, China buys it, and China treats them better. Now, Nigeria is pretty solidly under U.S. command. There are U.S. troops in Nigeria. They've been there since the Obama administration. So Nigeria is not like fully being an anti-imperialist country, but the USA wants to increase its military presence in Africa. Remember the Bring Back Our Girls thing, right? Bring Back Our Girls. And they did this whole social media campaign. That was about increasing the U.S. military presence on the African continent. It was a PSYOP, a social media campaign, propaganda campaign. There was Invisible Children, right? In the Coney 2012, that whole thing was a very similar thing. And there's a lot of efforts. That's what Samantha Power, she really cut her teeth on this, is propaganda campaigns to justify the U.S. military presence on the African continent, which is there to kind of hold off the transition of that entire continent to aligning with Russia and China, because Russia and China treat them better. And that's really what's going on there. And that's all I can say about that. And yes, we are big fans of Ibrahim Traore. He's the future of the continent. We love Ibrahim Traore. And he's the kind of leader that we need. And we celebrate Ibrahim Traore at the Center for Political Innovation. We are big fans of Ibrahim Traore. And the Union of Sahel States, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, that's where we see countries breaking out of Western dominance and building and building and building. And that's kind of the model. Imagine we had leadership like that here, that put the people first and invested in communities. Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that be tremendous? I think it would be. I think that would be a great thing if we had a government of action that fought for working families. Imagine that. Wouldn't that be great? I think it would be excellent. I think it would be tremendous. All right. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Now, Penny sent a Rumble rant. Victory that unites us all. This is Penny, a compilation video that she made. So we're going to put it on. This is a video from Penny. If folks have more questions that they would like to send, by all means, you can send them. Buy me a coffee, Caleb Maupin. That's the best way to send your questions. But yeah, Penny sent one of her compilation videos about peace between America and Russia. So we're going to put that on. We'll put that video on as soon as it is available here. We're going to put that on. But yeah, any more questions that people have, always happy to answer people's questions. Right after this stream, I'm going to premiere on the channel my WBAI radio interview I did this afternoon. 23 minutes. We covered like every topic. It was really amazing. I've been doing regular interviews on WBAI radio, presenting a pro-peace, anti-imperialism, pro-working families perspective. And, this is New York City, so like hundreds of thousands of people hear those interviews. I mean, WBAI has a really wide listenership. And so, I've been going on this show, Frontline Voices, with my friend Rebecca Miles, and I've been doing these interviews, once or twice a week, and they get listeners. It's really important, and so I've been trying to post the interviews on this YouTube channel afterwards. I posted it on Twitter already if you want to listen to it, but I'm really glad to be doing that. Right? I do a lot. I did Jamarl Thomas this morning. I did WBAI radio. Went into Manhattan, filmed a great story. And now here I am. I got to have a nice dinner with my wife, which was good. We got to have some family time. Me and my beloved sweetheart. We got to have a nice meal. And now I'm here streaming for all of you. And we're gonna put on a Penny compilation video, "The Victory That Unites Us," about unity against fascism in World War II and all of that. So I'm just waiting for the video to download. It's moving right along here. We'll put that on. If anyone's got any more questions, we will do that. This channel is really a community. That's what we are. And we're getting ready to have a great event in January. Please be there. We need you there. It's going to be good. It'll be a great day, dinner buffet, music, speeches, Q&A, long Q&A session. If you come, you will be allowed to ask a question. Long Q&A where everyone in attendance has an opportunity to ask their question if they want to ask a question. All right. So, with no further ado, I will put on Penny's Victory That Unites compilation video. Send any more questions you got while the video is on. And we will continue this stream if there's more questions. So here we go.
Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy.
We support peace talks and Ukraine war.
We support peace talks and Ukraine war. Build the peace bridge. Build the peace bridge.
Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy.
Russia is not our enemy. Russia was with us in the fight against the Nazis in World War II. At the moments when America shows its true colors and is standing up for justice and truth, you'll notice that we're standing with Russia.
Peace with Russia. Peace with China. Peace with Russia. Peace with China. It's time to stand for peace here at the United Nations. We are marching up to the religious rally. Russia and China are not our enemy. Peace with Russia. Peace with China. Peace with Russia. Peace with China.
Russia and Burkina Faso are fighting the same battle. We are living in a world that I would describe as unilateral. We want a multipolar world. We want a world that is free, independent, a world of peace, where nations do not dictate to other nations what they should do and how they should be. So Russia is actively engaged in this struggle, which is also a fight for denazification, if I may say so. And so we too are engaged in the same kind of struggle against imperialism, which seeks to enslave us, which wants to keep us in bondage. So we therefore share the same perspectives. So it was very symbolic for us to come and take part alongside the Russian people in this celebration.
We support peace talks and Ukraine war.
We support peace talks and Ukraine war. Build the peace bridge. Build the peace bridge.
In particular, the Soviet people made a major contribution to defeating Nazism. And the people of Burkina Faso, as you rightly said, are now making efforts to fight and eradicate terrorism.
The Sudanese Armed Forces SAF say they have eliminated a number of foreign fighters, including Colombians and Ukrainians, fighting alongside the Rapid Support Forces in the besieged Darfur city of El Fasher. According to a statement from the Army's 6th Infantry Division, the fatalities occurred during a special operation in Al-Karama Square, where the foreign fighters attempted to take high-rise residential buildings. The SAF say among those killed were drone engineers and snipers. Military intelligence also claims the foreign mercenaries used Ukrainian-based drones to carry out reconnaissance and strike missions against army positions. El Fasher is one of the last major cities in Darfur not under RSF control. The fight between SAF and RSF has escalated in recent weeks, worsening the humanitarian crisis in and around the city.
Burkina Faso has been fighting against terrorism for 10 years. Now, it's not that there haven't been any deaths. There have been many deaths from that time up to today. But we do not give up, because we know that we will achieve victory. And we continue this fight. So there is this mindset that unites us.
And how do you analyze the influence of the Soviet victory in the Second World War on the process of decolonization in Africa? What would have happened if we can try to imagine to Africa if Nazism had won?
It contributed a lot, I can say. Now, if Nazism had won, I can't even imagine. But I imagine, people did not respect black people. Even today it continues. Black people have always been labeled as subhuman. Some actually saw us as animals. So slavery for centuries and centuries, colonization. This war, you see, they came and took our ancestors without their consent. They sent them to the slaughter on the front lines. And when they returned, you heard what happened in Senegal. When they tried to claim their money, they were killed. That is to say, they do not consider black people. And yet they went to fight alongside so-called allies who treated them like that. But imagine if Nazism had won. It would have been a disaster. So that's why I say it was a fight that had to be fought. It was utter madness in the world. It was a fight that had to be fought, and Africa took part. And today we can say thank you, because the people who made the greatest sacrifice were the Soviet people. No one lost as many people. No one experienced as much destruction during the war as the Soviet people. So we are grateful, and I think it was necessary for the world to be as it is today, and for Africa to be able to hope to carry on as well.
So Kim, we just talked about Burkina Faso and the progressive populist revolution, how they're investing in working families and agriculture and education and healthcare. Now, we're giving all these billions of dollars to Ukraine, and Ukraine, with our tax dollars, is openly bragging about arming and giving intelligence to the terrorists in West Africa. But as an African person paying taxes and living in America and living paycheck to paycheck and wanting a better life for you and your family, how does it make you feel that we are forced as Americans to give our tax dollars to Ukraine to kill African people and Russian people in Africa? What does that have to do with us?
For one, I don't even understand why we're in war. I never really got off into it because it's scary to me, so I try not to get into it. However, I don't appreciate illegal immigrants and people from other countries coming here, taking over, have access to everything, all the resources and everything that we can't even touch. That they don't even give us nothing, they don't honor us nothing. It's so hard to get anything, and it's not fair that they can come here and take everything that we work for.
Right. And so how do you think all these wars is part of that problem?
I don't know.
I mean, when we
shouldn't be a part of the problem, but
what I'm saying is we have all this displacement of people because of these wars. And we're told that all these people are fighting for their freedom, but they're here.
Yeah, because it's the land of the free. So not only are they funding the wars with billions of dollars, they're funding billions of dollars to people from other countries, and we can't even get $1.
Right. So
it's not fair.
And we're funding Ukraine.
It's not fair.
To kill Africans.
It's not fair.
And to displace Africans.
And I need money just to get a salon chair and a dryer.
Right. So instead of funding wars, these freedom fighters, they say they're freedom fighters, they're not allowing countries to develop, what could we be funding instead?
Right here. You know what I said at first?
Just tell me again.
Education, farmers, to keep the land going. What else? Oh, for people who want to start their own business, and for women and children.
All right. Well, I think that's something we can all agree on.
Oh, and natural disasters.
Oh, yeah, FEMA.
Yeah, they need to be supporting it. Like, because I'm from Louisiana, and I firsthand I remember Hurricane Katrina like yesterday. I'm not from New Orleans, but people need help during those times. And it don't have to be a hurricane; it can be any type of disaster. But
so why doesn't our government fund that?
Because they got money. It don't benefit them. It's taken from them, so they can't make no money off of it, right?
That's right. That's how imperialism works.
Oh, see, I didn't know that, but it was just a wild guess.
Because the big banks and the monopolies, they tell the government what to do instead of fighting for working families, which is what we're fighting for, a government of action that fights for working families. Our government serves the big banks and the monopolies.
Gotcha.
And today, the reality is plain to see. You see, all the aid that was given, it wasn't really aid. They were told to hand over their minerals. In reality, Ukraine no longer belongs to the Ukrainians. They were manipulated, and now they are the losers. All sectors will be managed by those who led them into this war. The hope was to weaken Russia, but Russia is coming out of this war even stronger. So I think they need to understand this and come back to their senses in order to negotiate and achieve peace.
Build the peace bridge! 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 We need to build the peace bridge from Alaska to Russia. Imagine all the thousands of jobs we could create building a bridge to Russia to connect to the rising economy in the East, BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation. Imagine all the development we could be having in these countries, in Canada, and Alaska, and America. We could have beautiful bridges and clean, safe subways instead of the ones that are falling apart.
Hey folks, so I'm here in the Moscow subway system, and I wanted to just show you this beautiful mural, this painting that they've got behind me here in the subway system. This is just the normal subway system that people take on their way to work, on their way home from school, to get through the city. This is the normal subway system. You can hear trains going by. They have this beautiful banner, but there's actually some very important significance to this banner. I want to point this out. This is a banner commemorating the victory over fascism, and it actually includes traditional Ukrainian dancers celebrating the victory over fascism, right? You see the banners with Lenin, you see the soldiers, and this is the victory in the Second World War, what they call the Great Patriotic War. And it has traditional Ukrainian dancers because Ukrainians are considered to be part of Russia. And they have no opposition to Ukrainian culture. They have no opposition to the Ukrainian language or Ukrainian traditions. And here in Moscow, you see traditional Ukrainian dancers celebrating, and this mural celebrating the victory, the defeat of the Nazis during the Second World War with banners of Lenin and the Red Army. But this is a monument in Kiev, in the Ukrainian capital, and traditional Ukrainian dancers participating in the mural. So this is something I wish more Americans were aware of. Tucker Carlson and others have reflected on just how beautiful the subways really are here. And compared to our New York City subways, I mean, this is like a palace. This is like a palace. It's so clean. so beautiful architecture, etc. But it's also important to understand the political significance of these banners. So all around me here in the Moscow subways, you see these statues of working people, right? Of soldiers, of construction workers, all around me, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about social realism or socialist realism, is it makes ordinary people into heroes, right? This is a sailor over here, right? This is a guy with a disc in his hand, and he's a machinist, right? And it makes ordinary people who do the work of the world, it makes them into heroes, and it kind of beautifies and celebrates just kind of the glory of ordinary people. I'll show you another one here. This guy's got a disc. And apparently all of these statues are actually based on real individuals. But the reason this is important, right? This is a woman, feeding a chicken, right? A woman feeding a chicken. The reason this is important is because this kind of art, social realism or socialist realism, this was not only the art that was popular in the Soviet Union, it was also popular in the United States. When President Roosevelt hired millions of unemployed workers to build hospitals and schools and post offices and libraries across America, they put social realist paintings and social realist murals and statues in these new buildings that were being built in the United States. And it was in the 1950s that the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States, the CIA, decided that they didn't like this kind of art. They decided this kind of art was fascist, this kind of art was dangerous propaganda. So the CIA began funding modern art or abstract art. And because they wanted to counter this kind of beautiful art that glorifies and celebrates ordinary people, the CIA started funding the work of Jackson Pollock, who just kind of throws paint on a canvas, splattering paint, or art that is just abstract shapes, because they're threatened by the power of social realism. And it was the left, the socialists and revolutionaries that promoted social realism, but it's because of CIA meddling and the Congress for Cultural Freedom program of American intelligence. Now the left no longer celebrates this kind of beauty. Now the left, glorifies, splattering paint on a canvas, modern art, degeneracy, these kinds of things. But that was a conscious manipulation by American intelligence. It's really wild to think that American intelligence agencies are funding art projects and funding music, but they did. They didn't like this kind of beauty. They wanted to steal it from us.
Imagine an economy where we have jobs and schools and healthcare for everyone. Imagine a peace bridge where we are not connected to NATO, but we're connected to BRICS, which is half the world's economy. And we're connected to the Shanghai Cooperation. China has high-speed rail all across the country, and we get, what, a 10-mile light rail in 10 years? That's a ripoff! Build the peace bridge! Build the peace bridge!
Build the peace bridge! Build the peace bridge!
Every meeting that we have, we begin with the pledge. We've changed the word youth for people, because we have people of all ages. But we begin, we raise our right hands, we pledge that we shall remember this unity forged at the end of the Second World War, not only today, not only this year, this week, but always. And the pledge goes on. But that is such a beautiful pledge that came out of the World Democratic Youth Federation. And I must say that the youth festivals represent the best, not just of this country, but of America. A time when we stood in solidarity with Russia to defeat fascism. And they're trying to erase that from American history.
I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study war no more, study war no more, study war no more, no more, study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more, down by the riverside. If you want peace, you gotta live peace, you gotta think peace, you gotta write poems about peace, You gotta sing songs about peace. You gotta dance about peace. Yeah, you gotta dance about peace.
There we go. That was a great compilation from Penny. Good stuff. Absolutely great stuff. And Penny did send another very short video about what's been going on in Mali, the African country that's part of the Union of Sahel States. We'll put that on. This is about the lithium mine inauguration.
Country officially inaugurated the very first Gabulamina lithium production line, marking an important milestone in our nation's ongoing journey toward industrial advancement. Today, we are officially launching the second lithium mine in the same region, thus demonstrating our country's clear intention to take its place as a leader among the priority countries for this strategic substance. As you know, lithium is not just a resource, it is a driver of industrial development and technological innovation that we must transform into a vector of geo-economic returns for our country. This major and massive project will be carried out in two phases. The first phase will generate a turnover of 46 billion with 500 direct jobs. The second phase will see an increase in turnover to about 111 billion with 800 direct jobs. Mali's participation is around 35%, 5% for the private stacker, and Mali will receive a profit of approximately 250 billion. This project, which has just begun, has already produced its first effects, particularly in terms of community development. Around 317 million have been invested in community development. Additionally, 24 billion have been invested in local content, specifically in the purchase of goods and services. We would indeed like to take this opportunity not only to acknowledge the people of Bugoni who turned out in large numbers, but also to commend the government's strong decision to cancel 121 mining titles, including 100 exploration permits. This is part of the Malian people's desire to clean up the mining sector, which has long been subject to illegal and fraudulent exploitation, and by certain individuals. I would also like to take this opportunity to commend the resilience of the Malian people in the face of this crisis and to reaffirm our commitment to making the mining sector a driver of our country's economic and harmonious development. So, Mali's vision is to make the mining sector a driving force for economic development. When you talk about development, it includes not only all the dividends in terms of taxes and duties, but also the share for the Malian state. But it is also about ensuring that the Malian people can benefit from these various projects, especially in terms of youth employment. There is already a law on local content, which is now an obligation for all partners to safeguard the interests of the Malian people, not only in terms of employability, but also in terms of partnership with Malian private companies.
Thank you.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I'm a bit tired. We've gone for about 2 hours and 11 minutes. I don't see any more questions popping in. That's okay. You can send questions afterwards, just like Richard did. He sent his questions over the weekend. I answered them. Very good. Yeah. So join us in New Jersey. It's going to be a great event, January 11th. It'll be awesome. So go and register on the Eventbrite. Register. Good to have you there. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to put on the closing music. And tomorrow night, I think I'll be streaming with Garland Nixon. The plan is to be with Garland tomorrow night. And then after that, we'll be back. We just keep doing these streams like we always do. But yeah, I've got some big interviews coming up this week. So that'll be interesting. You'll hear more about that, I'm sure, when they happen. Doing Garland tomorrow night. I'll be doing streams. So thanks, everybody. Dare to struggle, dare to win.
New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists,
And the people of all countries must get prepared. Revolution is the main trend in the world today.